So I actually wanted to make this video about Hasan Piker. Now I know that a lot of you guys know that I had some dealings with Hasan personally, and so you guys may have seen like the meme videos or whatever. I've made like critical videos of Hasan Piker, and so I wanted to be consistent and kind of make this video about him in terms of what I notice now of him being like kind of like a macro analysis, or I guess in this case, kind of a micro one actually, because he's like one piece in the big macro picture. But I wanted to analyze Hasan Piker as a creator and somebody who and analyze his influence, what he does, what kind of value he brings, and who he is as an influencer, right? So here in the political sphere, we know people like Kyle Kulinski or Dave Rubin or Sam Seder or Jimmy Dores or whoever. Those are all people who are locked essentially into that politics circle, right? Hasan Piker is uniquely different from all of those people because as opposed to just being a political commentator and analyst and news host, he is an internet celebrity. So he transcends politics. His influence is actually most in areas that are not politically related. So a lot of political people don't mess with this because they want somebody who's entirely entrenched in politics. This has gotten better, but in the past, like in 2017, for example, if Kyle Kulinski were to upload a video talking about something outside of politics, people would get really angry. People would get really angry at political channels for talking about essentially anything else, maybe something that's a culture thing that you can relate back to politics. So, for example, the video I made about the viral popcorn guy who like got bullied by somebody on the internet, and then everyone came to defend him. Right? That's technically not a political video, but I should still be able to make a video on that and people watch it because it's still something that affects all of us, and it does come back to politics because it does come back to what's corporate culture and what's worker culture and labor requirements, expectations, compensation, etc. Right? So it all comes back to it. Or something like Andrew Tate. Right? These are all important things that we should all be able to talk about. But he's somebody who transcends that entirely. He can just talk about whatever he wants because his popularity comes from the internet itself as a whole. So he's uniquely different from those people. Now, I previously wasn't too big on that because I was just kind of into people who are political commentators. Now, I had stopped watching Hasan Piker for literally years. His content, I felt like he was very angry about his content, and I don't really think too much of like Hasan's content is like very like intellectual in terms of really breaking down like what are the four alienations of Karl Marx, you know what I mean, like alienation from your own labor, the produce of your labor, and then nature and your family and commodity fetishization. We're taking the concept of whereas our goal is supposed to be to make social relationships with people. Now under capitalism, we only make social relationships in order to get physical goods. Commodity fetishization, right? Or what like the theory of exploitation is, right? It's not some like crazy cabalish kind of thing. No, it's like the capitalist has to pay the laborer less money than he produces, otherwise he makes no profit, right? So you're literally not making the money of what you produced. If you make a chair for a capitalist, the capitalist has to pay you less than you produce for the chair, otherwise he makes no money, right? You're not really going to get that stuff from Hasan Piker, correct? You see what I'm saying? Or like the difference between Maoism and Marxist-Leninism and Marxism, right? Like Marxism takes place in Germany in a developed, industrialized society, and you try to insert that into Russia, and Russia is not a industrialized society. It's a peasant farmer society. So how do you plug Marxism into that kind of a system? You can't. It has to be industrialized first. I know Marx talks a little bit about how you can jump the system on that, but those kinds of things. I don't think you're really going to get that kind of stuff with Hasan, but no one cares about that kind of stuff. Nobody wants to see that stuff because people are fucking dumb, which pisses me off. But anyways, that's a different deal for another thing. But he gets like 50,000 live viewers concurrent on Twitch, which is crazy. Like the dude is huge. I never imagined he would get this big. I was in his streams in 2019 when he had 200 viewers. He was playing Red Dead Redemption 2. And then he started to blow 1,000 and just kept going and going and going and going. And so I actually have come to the conclusion that his influence is actually really good because there seems to be one universal language online. This is the thing that people respect, okay? It's clout. It's how many viewers you have. And so he has lots of friendships and connections with people who he otherwise would not have connections with. Bradley Martyn, Adin Ross, those kinds of people, these kinds of people, like maybe the Full Send podcast guys, these people who would not care about him if he was just a political commentator, the same way they don't care about Kyle Kulinski or Sam Seder. I think he's even friends with Nick Merckx, but I would imagine Nick Merckx is pretty right-wing, I would imagine. I don't know for sure. I don't know what his politics are, but he seems very much so in that direction. I've watched his Call of Duty streams. And so he's able to pierce through to all of those people. And so this gives him a huge vantage point in terms of, instead of having this massive commercialized, like anti-left-wing, etc. kind of thing, now you have somebody who's able to pierce it, right? He's able to penetrate, like nice and deep, right? Penetrate deep, right? So it's like he's able to have good influence. And so some specific examples of this, I was just watching this because it came up in my recommended feed on my homepage, which for a while his videos were like, they were penetrating my home feed. It was just nonstop, Hasan. Damn, get the fuck out of my recommended feed, dude. But anyways, so what you can see here is like there's a video about Kai Cenat, again, another huge YouTuber who I actually took a picture with at TwitchCon party. He reacted very, very poorly to one of his friends being accused of, I don't even know if you can say the word, the R word we'll say. I don't know if you're allowed to say it on YouTube or not. And she handled it actually very bravely. I was actually really impressed. She came out immediately. She went to go get an R-word kit at the hospital. She was trying to get in contact with him, and then when he wasn't responding, she went to Twitter to talk about it. Because the thing is, when you're assaulted like that, you need to go out quickly, because the longer you take, fallaciously, people are going to doubt you and not believe you. It's false that they don't believe you if you take your time, but the massive shock and horror that overtakes you when you are assaulted like that or R-worded, right? It's like, it's so strong that it's hard to go out and talk about it. It's so difficult. And so that's why, women will wait years on years before they come out. It doesn't mean that what they're saying is false. It's because of the psychological damage that caused that made them essentially paralyzed. And so he's basically out here calling out the misogynistic structure of always doubt women. Like, you basically have to make the moon move to basically be able to prove it, even though she's posting pictures of the blood coming out of her, behind. It's absolutely disgusting and horrible. She obviously should be believed, right? Absolutely. And so he's out there putting this kind of thing. And another thing, him and, Ethan Klein of H3H3 Productions, actually another example of this too. He did the opposite shift though. Hasan started out as a politics guy, moved into being an e-celeb, although that's kind of fallacious too, because he was kind of already an e-celeb where girls would thirst over him or whatever. So he was kind of already like that. Ethan Klein was the opposite. He started out as kind of the e-celeb kind of guy, he made funny ass videos. H3H3 Productions, from 2015 to 17, dude was the funniest dude on the internet. His videos aren't funny anymore. I don't even know if he puts out videos, but that was a golden age. But he moved from there to the political scene. So he moved into the political scene. So he did the opposite kind of shift, almost, technically. And so Adin Ross is this really huge guy. I don't know why anybody watches him. He's the size of Hasan. He has on rappers and, famous people. And so he's been really ball leaking Andrew Tate for some reason. I don't know why. And so Hasan Piker and Ethan Klein here were just going into depth in terms of talking about how terrible it is that this is happening. Look at how horrible Andrew Tate is. Look at all the evidence against him, and you're going to be out here basically, defending the guy and all this stuff. And so they talked to Bradley Martyn, and Bradley Martyn was on the podcast. And so he was pushing back in a tepid way. He kept saying, I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is true. It's literally Andrew Tate's own words that he said himself. But these guys are just so deep into it, they won't believe it. And so I was watching this CLR Bruce Rivers guy on YouTube who I'd seen because he analyzes rap videos and rap situations, legal situations. He's an actual board certified attorney. So, it's not a Twitter attorney, it's a real fucking attorney, right? Everybody's an attorney nowadays, right? Everybody's an expert on everything. And he was basically breaking down how Andrew Tate's going to get fucked up by his own words because he blatantly said all of this stuff. So pretty fascinating. And so they're pushing this into the thing. And so they're able to penetrate, right, deeply, very deeply into the entirety of society and be able to push back against this in the mainstream. So it's not the echo chamber of just people who already agree. It's the mainstream. And not only are they able to put out their message, but they're able to influence someone like an Adin Ross or Bradley Martyn or whoever by maintaining relationships with them and influencing them in good ways. And so that also affects that ability to essentially lobby and impact people, also affects the general macro scene. And so I've come to the conclusion, and this might be a fallacy of anecdote because I haven't watched that much of Hasan Piker recently. I had only seen like a bunch of this and then the Kai Cenat reaction. I didn't know much about the Kai Cenat situation until I actually watched his video, so he actually kind of broke it down for me. Yeah, so he is a good influencer. So the fallacy of anecdote thing I mean is he used to just rage at his chat all the time, which is annoying. Who just wants to watch some guy just yell at dumb people in his chat? Like, that was super annoying. He would just rage like crazy. Super annoying. He doesn't seem to do that as much anymore, but that could be the fallacy of anecdote because I haven't really watched too much of it, so it could be like fallacious. He still has me blocked, by the way. He blocked me a second time because I posted a video that he didn't want people to see of him like dressed like Jesus and like talking about the Kardashians or whatever. It was really cringe, and so he ended up blocking me. And that was 3 years ago, guys. That was 3 years ago. So he's had me blocked for 3 years. That's insane. It's over 1,000 days. I don't know if he's ever gonna unblock me or not. Eventually, you have to, right? How could you block me forever? It's a very bizarre thing to do. But he's super big, and I think that he just thinks I'm a waste because I think he looks at me as like a content skull and like a leech off of his content and his bigness. And I think he's had to separate himself from a lot of people because the clout that he has raised him up so high. It's very isolating. Like when you get to Hasan's point, like you have to be very cautious and paranoid because people are going to use you for your clout. That's why everyone respects you, is because of your clout. And so you have to be careful with who you trust and who you mingle with because they're likely just using you for clout. And so I understand his paranoia and his isolation. But yeah, I don't know if he's ever going to unblock me. I don't know if he's going to take this video as like me trying to lobby him to unblock me. That's not what this is. This is a genuine, legitimate analysis of who Hasan Piker is here. Azan. But yeah, so since I've had a lot of critical videos, I thought it was good to put this out in terms of, I guess his content has improved and then his influence has grown. And so it's kind of changed the nature of his situation and blah, blah, blah. And so hopefully, you guys take this and let me know what your thoughts are on Hasan Piker. Do you watch him at all? What do you think of his influence? What do you think of his content? Let me know down below. Very curious to hear them.